Things are good with you?
Things are good with me. You don't need me to record the audio on my end?
No, no, I'm good. I'm good here.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So you're at the CBC?
Oh no, I'm in my closet.
You're in your closet.
Dude, the snowstorm made things a little bit like it's like please the OPP is like please consider if you really need to leave the house. And so I asked my boss at CBC. I was like, "Do you think we can just do this remotely?" And she's game. She's in there anyway. She has to go in.
Yeah.
But we've done it a couple of times. I'm not an audiophile, but you can't really tell the difference. You can't. I can't tell at all.
Yeah.
And it's it's pretty good. The mic's decent, and a lot of clothes around here. We're in a walk-in.
Look at you with the walk-in closet. So this is your wife's closet, then this is not your closet.
No, it's actually I have more than my wife. I have more clothes than my wife, if you can believe it. She's more of a minimalist.
Good for you.
What are you
Good for
gonna
you.
do?
There's always people telling us what to do. I think the first time, maybe it wasn't the first time, but I know the last time you were on, it was like pre-pandemic, like right as it started, we couldn't meet up.
Yeah.
How have you been past 2 years? Like
It's
everybody
been that
else?
long. Yeah, I can't believe it's been that long. Um, yeah, geez, it's like it's that balance of like I shouldn't complain, and yet, God damn it, it would feel good to complain a little bit once in a while. And then no, but
Yeah.
we can't complain. I really try to focus on how lucky we are. But it's
Sure.
tough. I have 4 kids, and like
Stop
one of
complaining.
the kids, I know. Well, no, let me start. Let me give me a
Go ahead.
little, give me a little bit of a
Okay.
leash. I think if I didn't have kids, I might be in a bit of a different situation. I could maybe sort of retreat into my own little safe space and be like, it's good. I don't
Yeah.
miss this. I don't miss that. But you just watch your kids sometimes become a little bit of a I'm not going to say and of course there's a lot of other kids who have it worse too. We're lucky
Of
our kids have
course.
each other,
Yeah.
but they you see what joy they get out of hockey or soccer or whatever activities or socializing. In the case, every kid has their own sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they've lost it all, and it's just I don't know, they're also pretty malleable. They're also like, all right,
Okay.
screw it, we'll just go with the flow, I guess this. But you just feel sad, like Papa, will I be able to play hockey again this year? And you're like, man, I don't know what to tell you, dude.
Have they become closer as siblings, or are they fighting more often, or
No,
both?
become closer. There's
That's
not a
good.
lot of fighting. I'm stunned sometimes. We break them up preemptively because we're like, you've been together. The only time you had apart all Saturday was one of you woke up 15 minutes before the other. Otherwise, just all day, ever like sports together, watching. And there's a little bit like, I don't want to watch that. Okay, let's watch this. But I give full respect to my 10-year-old.
Yeah.
He's pretty chill.
Is
He's
he the
not.
eldest?
He's the older out of the 2 boys, and then I have 2 girls who are 18 and 16.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? Like to see all
Yeah.
these different kids, like my eldest, lost a grad year. If I think about my grad year, that was a good year, but like whatever, she has her health. There's some people who spent their grad year in intensive care. So you go, okay, fine, this is fine.
Yeah.
But then she's in Ottawa U now. She started in September at Ottawa U, and it's not much of a first year either at university.
No.
But anyway, you're patient. Time heals all wounds.
Yeah.
The podcasters, they knew what was up, right? They were like, "Hey, man, let's
This is
keep
the life.
doing what we're yeah, it's the life.
this
Yeah,
is this is the
let's keep
life.
doing what we've always been doing."
And listen, like, did you have to? I'm not getting into comedy. You coming into podcasting, like, what's the deal with
What
that?
can I tell you? Um, yeah, it's so true. I don't. It's so true. What gives me the right to
Stay in your
dance
lane.
in your turf? Absolutely, man. It's tough to deny. I'm a big fan of the medium of radio, or let's say audio. As a
Yeah.
whole, I'm a big fan. Like I have friends who can't relate to this at all. I don't know if you could relate to this, but just, even when I lived at home with my parents, many years ago, pulling into the driveway and
Yes.
just not being able to get out of the car because you're so deep in some incredible story on the moth, or
Yeah.
some incredible piece on ideas on CBC or something. You're like, I want to hear more about this. This is insane. And good radio programming, when it's done well, it's so compelling. And you can't
Oh
pause
yeah.
it. You can't pause it and go and then come back. You're there, especially when you're when a car environment and stuff. I'm talking about like, the old school way of listening, but
Yeah.
I really love it. I really
It's
love it.
it is something. I remember when I was a kid listening. I think it was Chum FM on Sunday. So they had the Sunday Night Funnies on
Mm,
Chum FM, and right after the Funnies, they had Theater of the Mind, and just listening to that on like a small transistor radio,
sure.
under the covers, and then taking the bus to and from work and missing bus stops because I'm listening to something, listening to a
Yeah,
podcast,
that's a huge testament to,
you
to
know.
these things. Yeah, man.
But
I
you and
remember
us, if you
listening.
sorry, go ahead.
uh, Yeah, I was just saying, I remember, as a younger man listening to Madly Off in All Directions, and I didn't know much. They're like, we're in the something studio, we're in the something hall in Nanaimo, and everybody cheers. I'm like, I don't even really know where Nanaimo is. And I hear this, like, whatever it is, the electricity of like whatever it would be, like 800 people in a hall. And I'm like, I was so fascinated by that being also like not just the very intimate nature of radio, but also hearing something that was like big that was happening reduced to just
Yeah.
your ears and being transported there. You're like, I don't know who those people are. I don't know who this comedian is. I've never seen his face because I don't
Hmm.
have anything called the internet yet. I know nothing. I just know that I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite radio program or a
I had a
DJ?
few.
Remember DJs?
I remember DJs. I wasn't as I don't think I'm a guy who had favorite DJs. Growing up in Montreal, we didn't have that same. I know when we used to come here from Montreal to Toronto. When I say here, I'm talking about Toronto. There was it was a big thing, at government. It's this DJ from this radio station. He has his night, or you go to whatever RPM, and this DJ Tony Monaco or DJ Silky Smooth or DJ whatever. I don't know who this. I don't know. We had one guy, MC Mario. That's all we had, and we could not have given a crap about MC Mario's whereabouts. I mean, he helped raise us. He helped raise us. He was a second dad to many of us. But to go somewhere because he's there, like, dude, all your stuff is on CD. We can hear all your favorite tracks. What do we? I didn't have a favorite DJ, but I had these shows. I had like especially NPR was a big deal for me because where I lived in Montreal, we were across the border from Vermont, so we got VPR, the Vermont Public Radio, I guess affiliate of NPR. And so I would listen to Fresh Air with Terry Gross. That continues to be a phenomenal show. I would listen to Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, which was this trivia game. And it was like a personal challenge on Saturdays to be like, will I be able to get this trivia from the
Yeah.
week,
Yeah.
And there was a car show that I would listen to, even though I didn't even like cars. I just thought, like, it's kind of weird. These two weird brothers answering questions. They never get stumped. Yeah, I mean, you go back to the days of like, especially in Quebec, we had like two or three channels in English,
Okay.
and TV wasn't that interesting, So radio really filled in the gaps, filled in this void for your imagination
Wow.
or for your restlessness, I guess. You want to hear more, you want to see more. What are you going to read the encyclopedia again? Like, what are you really going to do? You're going to go to the library and sit with stuff. But I don't know. Radio really like fulfilled something that I didn't even know it was missing. It was so great and continues to be.
So how did you and Asif decide to start this podcast? And I have to say, I didn't know what I was expecting, and I listened to it, and phenomenal. You guys are doing a great job. I don't know how the two of you being so busy as you both presumably are, that you've got the
Crazy.
time to research and actually put together a great sounding, well produced podcast. So well done
Thank
on
you.
that.
Thank you. I give a lot of credit, the lion's share of the credit to Asif. He really, because this was something he talked about a couple of years ago. We were at a cottage, and he's like, I'm going to this medical conference. It's like about medical podcasting. And I was like, oh, would you
Oh,
want to have a medical podcast? He's like, I think I would. I think I would really enjoy that. I just don't know what the subject would be. I don't know what the angle is. I don't know what it is. I was like, oh, okay, well, good luck with that. And that was the end of
that
that
was it.
conversation. But he went to that conference and he had it in mind, and it continued to churn for, I think, over a year. And then I think his wife is the one who said, again,
Okay.
at another visit to their home in Ottawa or a cottage visit or something, we were somewhere, and I think it was his wife who was like, this, what you guys are doing right now, this banter in the kitchen, this should be the podcast. I think she said it. I'd like to get to the bottom of that so I can give respect to the right people. But if she didn't say it, she definitely concurred and championed it. If Asif said it, but yeah, I think it was somebody else who was like, "What this jibber jabber that you two guys find some joy in?
Yeah.
You leave your children and wives to go talk for an hour in the kitchen. This wasn't this just be the podcast?" And it was often me coming and saying things about like, well, what about, pharma is like this, and what do I not know here? Why am I hearing this, but then also this? You clear it up for me. And
Okay.
sometimes he could, sometimes he couldn't. And the same thing. I mean, this guy, one of my first friends who, when you're young, you don't meet a lot of people who are like, this is who directed this film, right? Most people are like this actor, this actor. You ask my kids, they who directed that film you love. It's like the way a lot of people go to a restaurant. They forget, like, never mind the chef's name, they forget the name of the restaurant. Oh, we had something so great yesterday. I'm like, oh, what was it? Oh, it's like this beef dish. What was it called? Can't remember the name of the dish. Certainly didn't take note of the chef and don't even remember the restaurant.
Yeah.
And I find that for me, that's baffling. But for Asif, he was like, this director made this film. You may know him. He also did this, Blade Runner, and he's the guy who did this. And so he was always interested in
Okay.
television and film at another level. And so now to have one of his closest, oldest friends connected to that world in a significant way, I think he's genuinely fascinated and has all these questions that he never thought he'd be able to get answered from somebody who is, directly connected to a bunch of it anyway. No, I'm not rolling alongside Clooney or anything, but definitely, the shooting experiences and on the other side of the camera, those experiences are.
Interesting. Which and then it baffles my mind. You bring that up. How can we call him Asif or should we say Doctor Asif?
You can
What
call
is
him
he?
Asif.
We'll call him
Call him
Asif.
Asif. Yeah.
With that in mind, I heard the podcast where I think you guys were talking about movies, and he talked about Dune, and I remember because I just seen Dune, and I know nothing about Dune before going to see it,
Oh, okay.
and I was blown away by the movie. I thought this is a movie like you hear of the movie making industry, and you hear about some of these classics. And that movie to me, I said, wow. Now I went with my son and a bunch of his friends, and I wasn't sure if they were going to get the movie or if they were going to enjoy it. They'll do research and go on YouTube and watch outtakes and backstories and stuff, so they'll figure it out that way. But that movie blew me away, if nothing else, but the music, the sound in that movie made the movie. Now I know you're not Asif, but I was kind of like bummed that he didn't like that movie.
Yeah, I mean, screw that guy, for not knowing a good thing. I'll tell you that I'm like a guy who I pick a horse and then I back that horse and I'll just go see whatever they do. So Denis Villeneuve.
Well, I am disappointed that
Okay.
Asif, didn't like Dune. If he is the type of person that goes deep into who's the director, who's doing the music, who's doing the editing, who's the cinematographer, and he doesn't like Dune. Like, come on.
I mean, I can't speak for him, man. He's not a normal person. I know he sounds like a normal guy sometimes on that podcast, but there's some pretty abnormal stuff that comes out of his head. Yeah, I was very surprised to hear that, to be honest. I have not seen Dune. I
Okay.
saw the original Dune. I have friends who read the book. I was like, I didn't even know it was from a book. Of course,
No.
most
Yeah.
things are from a book. So my goal was let the real Dune heads go and see this, and I thought Asif would be one of them. Quite
Yeah.
a huge nerd in many ways, and I thought this would fall into his nerddom, if that's a word,
Well, it is now. It is now.
nerdishness. But yeah, I was surprised. But that's part of the fun of a podcast with somebody too. Where sometimes
For
when you
sure.
expect them to zig, they zag, and
Yeah.
then you get you because we actually have gotten feedback. You two don't disagree enough. People want us to fight, so I
That
think
would
we
be
have to
good.
capitalize those moments.
I think maybe there needs to be an episode on, you've talked about laughter is the best medicine. And Asif has to ruin it to talk about, well, there's no proof, there hasn't been any studies. Yeah, come on. Hasn't he ever read, Reader's Digest? They have a whole section on laughter is the best medicine in that thing. But maybe there needs to be a episode about fighting. And, you have 4 kids.
Fighting is the best medicine. Yeah.
Fighting is how you build something, maybe there's...
I think it's a very good idea. And there's a lot of parents who believe in that, sort of copying the animal kingdom, right? This is how this young, whatever you are, like bear cubs, lion cubs, various animal packs. This is how they learn strength, their own strength, balance, coordination, understanding of self. And so there's some parents who follow that.
Yeah.
Fighting, they let them fight. They'll learn to sort of toughen up and understand how far to go, how far they can go, this kind of stuff. Whereas other parents, like in my in-laws, one shove from one of my sons to the other son is like, oh, what are you doing? Like it gets really like you can't do that. It has to as soon as you're old enough to speak civilized behavior, So and of course they're not alone in that, right? A lot of people are like fighting just not allowed in this house. But I think it's a very good idea. I think it's a great idea, and we'll give you a shout out on that episode.
I'm looking forward to that. And not that you stole this idea, because I think everybody last year was talking about 1991, music in 1991. And I don't know if you know, but I also have a music podcast, and we were gonna talk about it. And I told my co-host, I said, Greg, everyone's talking about 1991. Are we going to bring anything new to the conversation? So we decided to scrap talking about 1991, but you guys did.
I'll tell you something. It's very interesting you just said that. Just as a kind of an aside, I often am plagued by this idea of, are we bringing anything new to the conversation? Asif never considers that. And I find that interesting. He listens to a lot more podcasts than I do. I have like a rotation of about 5 or 6. That's it.
Yeah.
There's just no time to listen to like all these different podcasts. People are, hey man, Joe Rogan's episode on this. I'm like, I just stop. That's not going to happen. You don't have to waste your breath. It's just never going to happen where I could just find 2.25 hours to listen to a Joe Rogan podcast about something, no matter how fascinating it is,
Yeah.
So he listens to a lot, and he's not plagued by those ideas, and I take his cue. Because I'm not what was I, like Billboard magazine's music editor in the 90s? No, I go that way. I go very hard on myself. What am I bringing different to the conversation? I think for us, if it's like, well, we have fans, we have listeners, we have people who like us. We know this. We get great, feedback, emails, and Instagram messages and all that. And so sometimes you just got to think like, maybe they'll be interested to hear what does this doctor and this comedian think about something that's not in their wheelhouse. I don't know exactly what his thinking is, but he has never said that. And to your point, Bob Saget passed away. I was even like, should we do a Bob Saget episode? Because even though I'm a comedian, what new am I bringing about Bob Saget? And Austin was like, no, we should absolutely do one.
Yeah.
So we'll do one.
Yeah, you did talk about that. I think I haven't caught up to that, but yeah, I saw that in the show notes there. So tell me, 1991, your favorite and I'm not talking about all albums because there was a bunch of albums.
There
Obviously,
were
every
so many,
year,
man.
every year there's hundreds and thousands of albums. But I'll tell you my top five or six
Okay.
from
Yeah.
1991
Yeah.
in no particular order. U2's Actung Baby,
Hmm.
which I think I like that album better than the Joshua Tree. In terms of when you look at U2 and their sort of their pop
I can see
music.
that, and I think that depending on what style of U2 you would like, it's a perfectly reasonable thing
Yeah.
to say. Like yeah, they're two very different albums, right?
Oh,
U2,
for sure.
yeah, they're very
Yeah.
different sounds. You wouldn't even necessarily know it's the same band.
True. Uh, Nevermind. Obviously, I think Nevermind has to be there. Nirvana, Pearl Jam's 10,
Yeah.
and then I know you have mixed feelings about this, but Guns N' Roses, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 is up there as well. And I didn't even realize Van Halen's for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, I think was
Hmm.
also a
Yeah.
1991. Um, Before we go into maybe your favorite, um, Sammy Hagar, does he get a bad rap?
It was like he wasn't David Lee Roth.
Yeah.
And that, for a lot of hardcore Van Halen fans, that was enough for him to be not good. But, you do some research on Sammy Hagar, a pretty impressive solo career himself prior to Van Halen. Very, very impressive pipes. The man can sing.
Oh, yeah.
The man can sing. Incredible. So, when you step back from your own sort of bias and those, it's you see people right now, they're making Ghostbusters with women and people are losing their mind and ready to go shoot up a studio, right? So it's a normal reaction to be challenged by things that made sense for you now changing. The way people go about it is a little crazier and a little less crazy, but I think that's one example of where a lot of Van Halen fans were like, no, if it's not David Lee Roth, it's no good, And I joke about this in my book and a bunch of places where I talk about how my bedroom wall had all these posters, and David Lee Roth with his high kicks and his spandex so tight you knew he was a Jewish fella. You know what I mean? Like he's there. Like the form of his penis would greet me every single day for years in my bedroom, and now he's not in the band anymore. What about all the time I spent, looking at him in his spandex? So this is what happens. You're so attached to something, it's hard to move forward. But I think Sammy Hagar doesn't deserve the bad rap he got.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What's your album of 1991?
Listen, man, I'm going to go, you zigged, so I'm going to zag. I'm going to do a little something like Asif and I do. And these were on the list. So Low End Theory by Tribe Called Quest is a phenomenal album. We were, the world at large, the general listening public, maybe not the hip hop heads of the time, but most of us were introduced to Busta Rhymes on that album. And you take out Scenario. If you've heard Scenario way too many times
Sure.
in your life, there's still about 7 other fantastic songs on that album. I stand by that. One of the greatest CDs I ever owned. I mentioned that I really love live albums. There's an Iron Maiden live album. There's a Scorpions live album that I really love. But that year, Live Hardcore Worldwide is a live album by BDP, KRS-One, Boogie Down Productions. That's phenomenal album. I had told Asif that in The Source, one of the journalists, music journalists in The Source magazine, had said that not only should BDP fans buy this album, anybody who is interested in what real hip hop sounds like should buy this album. And for me, that's how I feel about that album and that time and that band. Real hip
Wow.
hop, just beauty of an album. Moving out of that world a little bit, I would say Road Apples, the Tragically Hip. Now this is a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
personal thing too. I think the album is great, but
It
also
is.
we went to see the Tragically Hip. So they had an opportunity to play at the Montreal Forum. They would have sold out the Montreal Forum. Instead, speaking to the work ethic of Gord Downie and the late Gord Downie and his band, they opted to do 4 nights at the Spectrum, a smaller venue, 4 shows. So it's like they could have sold out and done that. I don't
Sure.
mean sold out as being a sellout. I mean sold out a large venue. But they decided to, for whatever reason, I don't know what reasons they had, but they gave us an amazing show. And I saw that album, I saw that show. My buddy Manish struggled to get me on stage. God bless him. Pushed me up on the stage. I stood beside Gord Downey, who was eyes closed, squeezing the mic, and I stage dove off the stage. People parted. I landed on the ground, split my lip. Somebody kicked me in the face by mistake. It's a whole thing. You know what I mean? Like I
Nice.
cannot extricate that.
There you go. Road Apples
experience
wins.
from the So Road Apples is huge to me, you know. And then,
Nice.
you know, Ice-T Original Gangster is a great album. These are like the storytellers, you know. You're going on journeys through the hood. You're going through. I mean, I really really loved it. And then I gave a Canadian shout out that Asif really appreciated. He's very, very into Canadiana, but it was Dream Warriors. And Now the Legacy Begins by the Dream Warriors. You know? And yeah, I really like that
Nice.
album too. I know it was only, most people only know a couple of songs from it, but that whole album was pretty decent.
Nice. Good.
And,
Good. That's like a Wayback Machine right there. That's
Wayback
a lot of-
Machine. Cooley High Harmony, if you want to also, you know, Boys to Men was, that was a great album also. Oh God, it is so hard to say goodbye to yesterday, Boys to Men. It really is.
I hear you. You know, speaking of Scorpions and podcasts,
Yeah.
did you ever listen to that Scorpion podcast?
No. Do they like dissect every song of the,
Oh,
of the
no.
Scorpions?
Oh, so you got to listen to. It's called Winds of Change.
Yeah.
And it's a podcast about the story that, and I'll leave it at this, that Winds of Change was actually written by the CIA. That's the premise of the podcast.
Okay.
And there's enough viable content that it's I don't know, I think 6 or 7 episodes long. Phenomenal.
Is this in the conspiracy theory world, or is this pretty
No.
likely? What do you think?
This it's not conspiracy driven because of the amount of content and the guests that the host interviews.
Yeah.
And sort of, you know, how they look at the type of music that the Scorpions sang, and then all of a sudden there's this ballad that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
Okay, I will say that Scorpions had some power ballads, though. They did do their.
But it was all about like girls and stuff. Like it,
Yeah.
you know, Wind of Change he's talking about like culture, like
Yeah,
You know?
that's fair. Okay, I
Yeah.
mean, I'll look into that anyway. I don't need even much more information than that. I really like what you've said already. I don't know how you get 7 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I'll listen to that first podcast anyway, and it might
Yeah,
get
give,
me. It might
give the
get
opening,
me.
yeah, give the opening a listen and decide where you go from there.
And the podcast is called Winds of Change?
I believe it's called Wind of Change or Winds of Change. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll listen to that.
Phenomenal. Listen, you were wearing a cap before.
Yeah.
You would kick me and never come on my podcast again if we didn't talk about this new hit comedy show on the CBC, Run the Burbs.
Yeah. Pretty excited about it, actually.
Nice.
Pretty excited. Not wearing the hat out of any sense of it's not compulsory. It's not contractual.
No, okay.
I have some pride in this. I really do, and I think you've talked to me, enough to know that I'm not comfortable tooting my own horn and singing my own praises, and that's not really what this is about.
Sure.
But it is a little bit about I'm so proud to be attached to this, and originally I think there was some hesitation. I'm supposed to play a 58, 59-year-old. And, the suggestion in the writing room was like, you don't know if Ali can pull it off. And, one of them said it in a nice way. They were like, look, you're always eternally young to us. You're an eternally youthful guy. Like when people find out you have 4 kids, it's a bit of like, that doesn't compute, it doesn't
Yeah.
compute that you're a father. And so, I know that they were a little concerned because they were coming also from the King of Kim's Convenience world, where Paul Hyung Sung Lee can do it. He can play Appa.
Yeah.
It worked, but it's like I have to grow in the beard, have it whitened, have these affectations that I've never had before. Whereas Paul was part of Kim's Convenience on
On stage, yeah.
stage, right? So he lived and breathed this character. So, there was no guarantee. Maybe I'll be in, if I get the role, we'll see what happens. So I get the role. Very, very happy. I'll be in maybe 2 or 3 episodes. Okay, great. That's fine. Happy to be part of it. Then we just wound up having so much fun, and I discovered a really like a connection with this character and this family and all this, and wound up being in about 8 or 9.
Oh, it's amazing.
Of episodes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I talk about, I'm proud. I'm proud that I'm proud anytime like. You get 50 to 100 people auditioning for a role anytime. So when you can crack through and get the role, that's great. But I'm also very happy to be part of this. I think we're doing something very, very significant. Andrew would tell me, he would get like these messages from people who are like, dude, I'm a Vietnamese guy married to a Pakistani woman. The fact that we are seeing what we're going to see, they hadn't even seen the show yet, but the fact that we know what you're working at, we've read about it, this is unbelievable to us. This
Nice.
is truly, in our lifetime, we never thought we'd see anything remotely like this, So
Yeah.
it's good. It's a whole discussion on representation and sort of correcting past wrongs, a little bit. Like it's been many, many years of people of color, sort of getting shut out for just not even racism. It's so institutional. Like you make the choices you make because you've always made them, and but you don't realize like how deeply ingrained the discrimination is in some of the choices you're making. And we're all guilty of it. But this is good.
It's interesting you say that. We're watching season 2 of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And my son came in the room as my wife and I are watching it, and he sits down for a couple of minutes, and literally the first comment that comes out of his mouth, "There's a lot of white people on this TV show."
I love it. Good for you, kid. Good for you. But how amazing is that, right? Like, I come from a generation, Asif and I talk about this, with regards to Apu on The Simpsons. It was almost, once you get made fun of and somebody goes, some white guy goes, "Thank you, come again." You go, "God damn, I hate Apu," right? And I understand that too. But at some level, we were also like, hey, it's one of us. That's sad. That's sad that a stereotypical cartoon character represented us. That was our representation.
That's right.
And you flip to your son, and your son's all of a sudden like, "This is weird. A lot of white people in this show," right? So that shows the strides that we've made. You think about the talent. First of all, just think about our numbers, as far as actors and people who can work behind the scenes. Those numbers, but then our viewing numbers, our audience numbers. Of course, we should be there. Of course,
yeah. I'm looking forward to watching this season. Today's Wednesday, so it's on tonight. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm really interested to see the work that all of you, but especially the cast puts together. That's for sure. Listen, a couple of more things I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I know you don't like talking about you, but we'll talk about you, and if there's time, we'll talk about other stuff. But so 2 things. Hussein Madavji was on the podcast earlier this week. And one of the things we ended off on was
Hassan and Hussein reunited again. Huh? We can never be too far from each other.
Yeah. I've got to go on IMBD when I talk to these people.
It's IMDb, first of all. You're going to the wrong website.
What did I say? BD?
IMBD. BD. It's a database. DB.
It's a database. There you go.
Yeah.
Tell me about Stealing Vows.
So, first of all, a real passion project. So Bobby Singh Brown, or Bobby Singh Brown. He's just Bobby Singh at this point, but he's done a lot of directing in his life. It's been mostly commercials. It's been various promotional campaigns, shorts. He wanted to direct a feature film, And I think he understood also, as we speak about representation, they're not handing out director positions to any brown guy who's just asking, irrespective of his experience and his background. Um, he's older. He's late 40s, 50s. Like, he's not part of that young generation of new directors who are maybe part of like these scholarship funds and other
Yeah.
endowment funds and opportunity. For him, he recognized that he had to create his own opportunity here. Uh, I approached him with some ideas for a script. We completely changed it, and he took it into something else. And that something else was Stealing Vows. And together, our friend Navi also was part of that original concept. And then Bobby and I sort of took it forward and turned it into Stealing Vows. And then we brought Fuad Ahmed along. Fuad is, FKA Gabe Gray. When we brought him along, he was Gabe, and he's
That's right. That's right.
gone back to his original name, which is again a huge source of pride. He was told, you'll never work in this industry with the name Fuad Ahmed. It's just not going to happen. First of all, it's Fuad Sayed. Now I'm forgetting what his last name is. I'm a bum. I'm a complete bum. But it's new.
I'm not editing anymore.
No, you can't. Fuad Ahmed. It is Ahmed, dude. We're just getting used to this. Anyway, he's a phenomenal actor, and to have him come and see the script and hear the idea in its infancy, and to be like, oh, I'm all for this. I really like this. It was great. And the idea was, let's do a film, a proper film by South Asians, about South Asians, and everybody, I don't know how much Hussein went into it, but everybody either had this happen to them or knew somebody who had this happen to them in the 90s. They're at a wedding, they come back, and the house has been broken into. It's a simple math and criminality equation. Indian weddings are 400 to 600 people. That's a lot of people out of their house on a Saturday night. Inside job wise, speaking from the inside job perspective, there's a lot of people who know that a lot of people are outside, right? So which houses are empty. And so these break-ins would happen. Manjeet Minhas, Dragon's Den, Manjeet Minhas, she was telling us it happened to them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, you meet somebody, everybody seems to know somebody who, or heard of somebody it happened. And so this was the idea, we wanted to explore that world, and we wanted to do it inside jobbish. So we had this cast, Fuad playing a wedding MC, and I could write from an informed place about that because I was a wedding MC, and many years ago a friend of mine told me, he goes, you don't want to get trapped. He's a musician, and he goes, you don't want to get trapped in the role of wedding MC. You're trying to make your name, as a comedian, as a stand-up comic. The wedding world will bring you in and it'll keep you there. And he said, as a band, we have to say no to weddings now, just so we don't become that wedding band. Yeah. Right? You don't want to be that band. That's not why you got into this business. You don't want somebody comes and goes, oh yeah, I saw you last month at this wedding, and I saw you last year at these 3 weddings. You don't want to be that band. And so those were wise words, and I was doing a lot of wedding, emceeing, and I sort of made a conscious choice to not chase that at all because of my friend's advice. So I could write about that character, in an informed way. I was a chef for many years, and so I play a chef. No range required. Angry chef who's made bad life choices. I was like, I'll write about this for sure. And then we had there were 2 other leads. One is Anand Rajaram. He was playing like a decorator, the hall decorator. He does a phenomenal job, as he always does. And then Jia Sandhu. Bobby caught her early, rising star. She's, by the time it's this movie's out there, people are going to be like, wow, Gia's in this. You know what I mean? It's like really what's happened in the last couple of years to her career has been so fantastic. She plays a photographer. And all 4 of us, photographer, designer, chef, and MC, are very, very disgruntled about being in this wedding. What do you call it? There's a word, like there's that table that they all sit at with the DJ. We're like the
Yeah, yeah.
wedding
Like the vendors, right?
vendors. That's the word I'm looking
All
for.
right.
All of us had goals that were not, I'm going to grow up and be a wedding vendor. That's not what we wanted to do. We had goals to be creative, accomplished, successful people. And now we're in this wedding vendor world, eating leftover saag paneer at the vendor table. So we're very disgruntled. And yeah, the idea is, why don't we start robbing houses? We know who's out of their house. We know we can. Let's just get enough so we can make a break out of this world. Let's just make a little nest egg for ourselves. And so that concept, it came from half my brain, half Bobby's brain, and we grew it and grew it, and it was a great experience writing that script. And then when it came to production, it all went to Bobby. I have no interest in that world. I have no abilities in that world. And full credit to Bobby to bring on people like Hussein, Hus, and so many fantastic people come in for like these cameo roles. And it's really like, for me, it's like a who's who of Canadian brown star
Nice.
power. And I'm very, very happy that people saw the vision that we had.
When are we expected to see this? Do you know?
That's the big question. I
Okay.
think it'll be wrapped up in every single regard, all the music and the color correction and all that stuff should be wrapped up in the spring. So maybe by March. And then it's about, pitching it to film festivals and stuff
Nice.
like that. And you will be made well aware when
Yeah.
it's
Looking forward to
finally
that.
coming out. Yeah.
Looking forward to that. And if that wasn't enough, like you're doing everything, you're now an author.
I will be a published author in fall. Now I'm
Yeah.
just an alleged author, right? You gotta say
Alleged. Although there is an interview you did pitching the book on one of these morning shows.
Yeah.
And I found that hilarious that you're pitching a book that no one can buy.
Well, it's even more hilarious because I was pitching that ahead of time for 2021 fall.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And then what happened was, I was really kind of bummed out about this COVID situation as far as this book goes. So what happened is, to be honest, that I hosted a virtual book launch, and it made me sad. It was for another author who I really love.
Okay.
And yeah, man, it just made me sad. It made me sad that author cannot be there shaking hands and meeting people and signing books. It was really an unfulfilling thing. And it wasn't even my book. I was just hosting the thing.
Yeah.
He did the reading and all that. And I just felt down. So I shared this with my editor. I was like, man, it's so like when you dream of writing a book and then it actually happens, how difficult it is to get a publishing deal and all this. And then you start to, oh, yes, I'm going to tour. I'll do comedy at night. I'll be in bookstores in the day, and I'll do this across Canada. And I was just like, I don't want to complain. It sucks for everybody, COVID, but I really, it's just bummed out about this. So he says to me, he goes, listen. So I had just introduced more of my father into this book. Because I was just coming to terms with some things with my father. My book is it's called "Is There Bacon in Heaven?" It's my kind of a love letter / guidance to my children. But then I introduced more about my father in the conclusion, and my editor Justin, God bless him, was like, "Hey, listen, man, you just opened up this new thing here. Your dad. This could it's a good book. This could be a great book. You have 3 generations." All sort of learning from each other rather than just you love letter kids. We can, I think we could push this by a year. I was like, what? No, that's crazy. Let's push it by a month. We don't need a year. And he was like, well, no, it's a fall book. And because of COVID, you are a guy who should be kissing babies and shaking hands and all that. And if you can't do it, I know it'll be a disappointing experience for you. That's not what every first-time author wants. Some authors can just stay in their house and they don't care about going on the road. I want to be out there. And so we pushed it by a year. So yeah, I've been talking up this book for way too long, probably. But now
it better be good. It better be good.
It better be good.
So have you added chapters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. It'll be like a 75,000 word book.
I don't know if that's big or not. Like how many pages is that?
It's
After
nothing insane. It's less than 300 pages. Less than
Okay.
300.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Not a
Nice.
reader, eh? I'll put it. Don't worry. It's going to be an audiobook as well. I saw
No,
your eyes burst out of your head at
dude.
how many words.
I finally finished reading Born a Crime.
Oh yeah.
Gee, like not what I was expecting. Like I'm reading and I go, when is he going to get to the comedy? And I am so glad there was no like there was no. This is me as a comedian. It was like his life.
No, not at all. It was his life, but like that story about like their friend who they had who was named Hitler and stuff. Go Hitler, go Hitler. Like the comedy is there, bro, but it's so mixed into this awful backdrop of apartheid South Africa that it's like, it's like it's just this real balancing act that he does. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Really,
I finished reading. Sometimes you finish reading a book like that, and you're going, "I was missing something." That there was nothing missing. That book,
agreed.
Like I was filled.
Yeah.
It was
agreed.
phenomenal. So thank you for recommending. I pick up that book, but yeah, great book. Thanks for this time, man. I think we've gone a little bit overboard.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, I'm sorry if I've left you some editing to do. If
this will come out the same time your book comes out. That's what I'm going to say. So that's how long it's going to take me.
Yeah, you gotta tell people ahead of time. Listen, man, we do audio, we do video, and I don't edit anything. You gotta tell people. That way, I've shaved. I've done some research on myself. I remember things I've done in my life.
What if I didn't say anything and we had gone to the end? It goes out to the world, and then you're gonna call me and you go, Karim, you gotta
pull it.
Ali Hassan, thank you so much for this. Run the Burbs every Wednesday on CBC. Look for Is There Bacon in Heaven sometime within the next 2 to 3 years.
Fall of 2022.
Fall of 2022.
You naysayer, you doubter, you.
And go listen to the podcast, Doctor versus Comedian.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much, buddy.
Bye, Karim.
That was good.